Back on the Rob Dibble Show with Ben Darnell on your afternoon drive. Kirk Kaplan on the ones and twos. I mean, certain people that I've been around in my life, and I've been very blessed working at ESPN in Bristol. I went to about 6 Super Bowls in a row, and every time I look forward to seeing certain people, and Franco Harris was one of them. And not because I loved watching him play football, but because he's the kind of person that would come into the room and you knew it was football royalty. You knew he was a special human, and he was nice to everyone. There was never a time when he didn't spend time talking to whatever Steelers fan, anybody that he walked through. And that's the one thing the NFL does way better than MLB. If you've never been to a Super Bowl, please go and hang out like on the row where there's about 10 bars or whatever that they set up and they close off, because there'll be 100 Hall of Fame football players throughout all of those bars. And I think they pay them to show up, and a lot of people are sponsored by different things, MasterCard, all these different things that they're sponsored to be there. But they sit there every night and they go out and they're amongst the people, and they're they're growing the game. They get it. They understand that the people go to, rub elbows with the most impressive people that have ever played that sport. And for me, it was crazy because I was with Dan Patrick and we were down, I think it was in Miami at the Super Bowl. And we were at, I can't remember, it was called a cigar party. And in walks Franco Harris, and I think Jim Kelly was with him and a couple other people. But this kid that pitched for the Red Sox that I knew, his name's Curtis Laskanik. And I'm like, this dude's about 5'10", 6 feet tall. And Franco Harris is an absolute moose. He's wide shoulders, just a big dude, looks like a linebacker. And to know that he played running back, and he's 60-something years old when I saw him last. And he come in and he comes up, and I had met him when he was in Pittsburgh, and I've met him a bunch of different times on different things that I've done. But every time it was like, he just saw you yesterday. How you doing? And blah, 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 and stuff like that. And I'm like, how did you get hooked up this guy? But that's my point, is that he was like best friends with like the most obscure relief pitcher that you could think of, and it was Curtis Laskanik. And they were best buddies, and they were inseparable every year. Next year, I think we were in Houston, or we were in Atlanta, or we were in San Diego, and all of a sudden, Frank would come in, be Curtis Laskanik. And I'm like, that's just such a crazy pairing. But it hit me that, as a lot of your heroes pass away, it's certain things strike you about them. And the one thing that always struck me about this guy is he played every game like it was his last game that he was ever going to play. He played every down like that. And when they talk about the immaculate reception, I don't even think about that as him being a football. This dude punished you for trying to tackle him. He was like Larry Zonka. I was blessed to watch guys like that growing up, that they just, Earl Campbell, I'm running it down your throat. I'm going to hit you in the chest, and may the best person win that battle. And to me, as a Cowboys fan, they crushed us all the time. They crushed your hopes and dreams. But, Franco Harris in real life far outweighed anything I ever thought he would be like when I met him. And it's sad to me, he passes away at 72 years old, but how many people will not be able to meet him at the Super Bowl, see him at football games? They were going to retire his jersey this Saturday at the Raiders game when the Steelers play the Raiders. And the first thing that hit me is like, you haven't retired this dude's number yet? Are you serious? I mean, he's one of the greatest football players, not just Steelers, but greatest football players I can remember growing up watching. So, to me, it's like, damn. And now he's not there to enjoy that. So it's things like that, Buck O'Neil, things like this that stick with me. But it's like, listen, while they're alive, you should tell them how great they are and honor them, I guess, and retire their jerseys, because you never know when someone's going to pass away and you won't be able to tell them to their face. But Franco Harris was so special to me, and I wasn't even a Steelers fan. But how could you not be a fan of football and greatness watching a guy like Franco Harris when he played in the NFL. He was a better person than he was a football player, which tells you a lot about the man.
And I almost think that the immaculate reception is somewhat of destiny for the man.
Well, who keeps doing that? Who keeps running on that play?
Well, the just the play itself and happening. If boys and girls, you've never seen it, it's on YouTube. It's a ball that Terry Bradshaw throws to a receiver that was broken up by a Los Angeles Raider at the time, bounces off a shoulder pad directly at Franco Harris. It makes a shoestring grab, catches it when everyone else is standing around thinking it would be an incomplete pass, and he runs down the sideline for a touchdown. The reason I love that play honoring Franco Harris is because it's a marker for me to know who the man is. And again, to bring it to 2022 and last week, I just think the whole Patriots-Raiders play at the end has just this mystical football god thing with Chandler Jones being the guy and these two teams being the team and it being Belichick. And then now that play happened a week of Franco Harris'
50th anniversary of this play happening.
50th anniversary, and the next week they're going to have that game.
Yep.
And that was set long before the play happened, which is just, it's ironic. It's mystical to me. It's a higher power of some sort. I don't know. But when I would talk to my parents when I'm a kid in the 80s, maybe even early 90s, and I'm talking, my stuff about Barry Sanders or Walter Payton, or at the time, I think I'm a Thurman Thomas fan too for the Bills, and I would talk about, man, they're the best running backs of all time. Both of my parents would both say, talking to them separately, not like together, like they planned this, but both separately would be like, Franco Harris, man, you better learn who that is. I don't know. Who? Immaculate reception. Just look that up. And that would be the marker that people would tell people in order to, like youngins like me, to check out Franco Harris. And it was just like any older person I ever talked to had this certain level of respect for this man amongst others. By the way, my dad was a Raiders fan, my mom a Bills fan. This guy ruined their 70s.
Absolutely.
Ruined their 70s. So mucho respect across the board. Fans, players, alumni of the sport, current players. Just there's no bad words that you can say about Franco Harris.
I'll set the stage. With the Steelers trailing 4th down, 22 seconds left in the game, this is an AFC divisional playoff game, by the way, in 1972. Terry Bradshaw throws it to John Fuqua. The ball comes off the helmet of one of the most badass safeties ever to play this game, Jack Tatum, who's about to light up Fuqua's world.
Right.
Okay, so it hits Tatum. Fullback Franco Harris catches it just off his toes. Literally, it's almost touching the ground.
Right.
And in full stride, he runs it back for the winning touchdown. Okay? To give you some respect and give you some basis for how big both teams were back in the 70s, with the Raiders being one of the best teams and the Steelers always being one of the best teams, there were 20 Hall of Famers either coaching or on the field in this game. And I'm going to read them to you because I want you to understand how amazing these players were as I'm watching this football game. And I was a Raiders fan and an Oakland A's fan in the early 70s because of the Oakland A's won 3 World Series in a row, and the Raiders were always so badass.
Oh, yeah.
George Blanda, Willie Brown, Fred Biletnikoff, Bob Brown, Al Davis, Jim Otto, John Madden, Art Shell, Ken Stabler, Gene Upshaw, Ron Wolf for the Raiders. For the Steelers, and these guys are all amazing, Mel Blount, Terry Bradshaw, Joe Green, Jack Ham, Franco Harris, Chuck Noll, the coach, Bill Nunn, Art Rooney, the owner, and Dan Rooney, the owner. All Hall of Famers. But at that game, and if you're not watching it, you were crazy back in the day because there was only like the AFC game and the NFC game. And that's the only sports you were getting and digesting that whole week were those playoff games. And you had the most amazing announcers that were doing them. And back, like Howard Cosell would be doing a game, and guys like that, and Frank Gifford and all these guys. And it was so amazing growing up in that era. And to me, when I look at it, it's because Franco Harris didn't quit on the play. As the ball goes over his head, you and I both know in football, how many guys are going to be full sprinting down the field and not be like, oh, okay, this is over. This guy just smoked it. He is in full stride, grabs that ball, runs around the edge, and scores the game-winning touchdown as time is running off the clock. I mean, to me, it's just it just showed you. The NFL Films, by the way, said this is selected as the greatest play in NFL history. It was a playoff game as well.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
In their NFL Network 100 series, they named it the play of it, the history of NFL. So that's if you don't know that play and you love football, you should watch that play and just watch all of the things that transpire when it hits Tatum's helmet and what Franco Harris is doing. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and on our way out, our wonderful Kirk Kaplan was able to get the sound of the moment of that play, and this is in honor of Franco Harris passing away at 72 today.
Last chance for the Steelers. Bradshaw trying to get away, and his pass is broken up by Tatum. Tipped off. Franco Harris has it, and he's over. Franco Harris grabbed the ball on a deflection. 5 seconds to go. He grabbed it with 5 seconds to go and scored.
97.9 ESPN.